while Abraham Lincoln was against slavery, and Abraham Lincoln was clear on that in his own writings in the 1850s, that's not why he brought the Union to bear on the South. He was trying to save the Union. He said, you don't have a right to break away on these things. Transient causes. And you have a wrong cause because the world is going in the other direction. You're breaking away because you want slaves. No, I'm sorry. It's time to abolish slavery. And that's why the Republican platform in 1860 was about that, ending slavery. So he was intent on ending slavery, but then the South walked away and said, we're not part of you anymore. And Abraham Lincoln, a man of constant sorrows, a man alone, really, truly alone, fought his way through trying to save the Union, preserve the Union. But that wasn't a great enough cause, and I don't think that was the cause that God wanted. And we lost almost every single battle as the North. Up until the Gettysburg Address, we lost almost everything. And then Lincoln paused, and he got down on his knees, and he said, what do you want? And it was clear he had to free the slaves, that's what that war was about. And so he went and declared that. But first, he said, we need a day of prayer, fasting, and humiliation. We must ask God to forgive our sins. After that moment, after that proclamation, the North won almost every single battle, I think except one or two. But while he was standing there was a speaker before him, and he gave a long, popular speech. Everybody was talking about that speech. And then Abraham Lincoln stood up just to give a few appropriate words. It took him less than 2.5 minutes. Everybody thought that it was good. The newspaper man from New York asked the president, can I get a copy of that speech? He said, sure, gave him the original copy. He used that to lay some of the typeset for the newspaper coverage and then threw that copy away. Lincoln himself said, nobody's going to long remember what we said here. But we have. And I think it is appropriate this Independence Day to remember it and to rededicate ourselves, because this is the challenge still that we have not fully completed. The promise of unity, and the promise again that reflects back to 77 years ago, and meaning back in 1776, they had this idea. Now it is 3 years ago. And his address still rings true. Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now, we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation, so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that nation might live. It's altogether fitting and proper that we should do this, but in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, they have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here. But it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which those who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us here to be dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave their last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and the government of the people, by the people and for the people, shall not perish from the earth.